All right, thanks for coming back to the Buddhist podcast. Today we have one of my favorite topics. We're going to go over dreams, dream analysis, and the subconscious. I thought this would be a fitting topic given the introduction of October, normally one of my favorite times of the year. So yeah, we're going to break into that a little bit and hopefully give you some tools to start breaking and unpacking your own dreams and see what they might reveal about the things that you've got going on in your own life. Now, I know there's a lot of different people out there that say dreams don't mean anything. They're just random flashes of images, random neural firings in the brain. There's about 6 to 10,000 years of anecdotal evidence that suggests otherwise. And that's where I tend to put my stock. I think that dreams are profoundly powerful and can provide immense amount of insight into your life. Now, does that mean that every single dream has as much meaning as every other dream? I don't know. I'm still inclined to say, yeah, probably does. And again, that's just my personal opinion. That's what I think, and that's what I've been able to do with clients and help them reshape their lives. So I'm sticking to it. So what's the difference between consciousness and the subconscious? Well, if you're conscious, then you are awake. And if you're subconscious, you're not awake. Basically as simple as that. Now, we know that most of the body's functions are done at an unconscious or subconscious level. Our heart rate, the function of our organs, all of these things are done unconsciously, meaning we can go to sleep and they do exactly the same things as they would in our conscious state. So our conscious state can be a little delineated by the fact that you can direct your focus to what you want to focus on. And when you're in a subconscious or unconscious state, you cannot direct your focus. So, with that said, when we are looking at other properties of the unconscious, we know that the how can I put this? The operating power that the unconscious mind has, the subconscious mind has, is 500,000 times stronger than our conscious brain. Let that sink in. Your entire life, as you've experienced it, is your conscious waking life. Now, imagine that multiplied 500,000 times. That's the power of your subconscious. Okay, it's not something to be taken lightly. And again, a lot of those processes are our neurons firing, our sensory input that we're taking in all the time, even that we're not aware of. Nonetheless, that's pretty extraordinary difference. So to think that our subconscious and our dreams in particular don't have any insight to give to us, I just don't think there's much of a leg to stand on there. Anyway, now Carl Jung, who worked very closely with Freud, but diverged because differences of opinions as to the nature of the subconscious. But Carl Jung believed in these things called the archetypes. Now, the archetypes, maybe you've heard of that word before. The archetype is kind of the original symbol, the original representation. If you've ever taken like a movie class or something like that, literature class, something like that, then you talk about certain characters. Who's the hero, who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist, who are the companions, all of these kinds of things. Well, each of these character sets is an archetype. A hero is an archetype. Now, there's thousands and thousands of heroes out there, but they all have something very much so in common, and that's what makes the hero an archetype. The villain is the archetype. The wise old man, the loving mother, the evil witch, the dragon, the trickster, these are all different types of archetypes. So Carl Jung believed that the archetypes originate in our subconscious. And over millennia, those archetypes began to take specific forms in the modes of storytelling and shamanism and all these different things that have then, built upon themselves and became the stories of world famous religions and mythologies all across the globe. So with that being said, these archetypes play an important role when we're analyzing our dreams. Because if we understand the function of the characters that appear in our dreams, then we can relate that symbolically to our everyday life. Now I'm going to say something that hasn't been proven, but is my own kind of personal theory on the subconscious, since we still know very, very little about it. But I don't think our subconscious knows that anything else exists. So I don't think it's aware that other people are real. I don't think it's aware that the external world is real. All the subconscious is aware of is the sense data that we take in every single day, every single moment of our lives. And then it does what it can to present information to the conscious mind using those images that are most readily available and most adequate to portray the symbol that it represents. So a lot of times someone might dream of their boss or friend or teacher or, any number of different things. And they'll come to me and they'll ask, I don't understand. I never think about this person. I hardly interact with them. Why would I be dreaming of them? And the first thing is to understand that, well, you're not dreaming of them, but they represent something to you, and that's what your dream is. They're just there to fill in this block, because for whatever reason, whatever you think of when you think of that person, that is tied to the message that the dream is trying to send you. I'll think of an example here. Let's say, back in my shoe selling days, if I had dreamed about the store manager. Now, I didn't feel particularly like they were a bad manager or anything like that, but they are in a position of power, and all of our interactions were somewhat cold, a little distant, and kind of top-down, giving orders. And so if I dreamed of that manager, it's not because I'm thinking about them, but because I associate them with these kind of cold, distant relationships. But again, if the unconscious doesn't know that other people exist, what this means is that you are experiencing this kind of cold, distant relationship within your own being. So, again, part of this process is understanding that all the aspects of the dream are aspects of your own being. They are symbols, and your job when picking apart a dream is to identify what those symbols are correlated with or represent. Now, normally when I do this with a client, we will sit down and we'll go one part after another, breaking down different components of the dream. So if someone dreamed about driving a car late at night into a heavily wooded area, we would start with the first part, the car. I'd say, okay, car. Write down whatever associations come up when you think of a car. What does a car mean to you? And they'll sit there and they'll write down a handful of things. We'll maybe do this for, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And then I'll ask them, okay, did any of those seem to really click? Like as soon as you thought of, oh man, yes, that's it. Did that register? And sometimes they'll say yes. Most of the time they'll say yes, 1 or 2 of them. So I'll tell them, okay, great, circle those 2, and then we'll move on to the next part. So driving, so we have the car, maybe you do driving, and then you do nighttime. What does nighttime represent to you? What are the thoughts that come up when you think of nighttime? And then heavily wooded areas, forests and trees and animals and all that kind of stuff. So we systematically go through one step at a time, and all the while circling all the things that seem to really click or register the most. Then after you do that, you retell yourself the story of the dream from start to finish with the new circled words. And now you have a completely different story, though it is the same emotional tone and may even unlock some insight into something that you're dealing with on a daily basis, or a reoccurring theme within your life, anything like that. Recently I ran into just a total stranger, and I was like, hey, I got a weird question for you. He's like, all right. I said, how are your dreams? He's like, oh man, well, actually I had one the other day where I was getting arrested. I said, okay, well, have you had a bunch of legal issues? And he goes, no, not at all. I've actually never had a run-in with the police. And I said, okay, so where in your life are you feeling restrained? And he just stepped back and he looked at me and he was like, well, right now I can't drive. And my boss at work has really been hounding me every single shift. Keeps scheduling me when I say I can't work, and really I just feel so limited and unheard. And so that was just a real quick, immediate thing. It's like, people can say whatever they want about police, but what do police do? What's the function of police? They restrain. That's what they do. And so something as simple like that, and then all of a sudden this light bulb comes on. So anyway, digressing back here a little bit, dreams are incredibly interesting to work with. And another thing is, a lot of people will tell me when I ask them, how are your dreams? They'll say, well, I don't really dream that much. I don't know. I don't dream that often. Maybe dreams I remember maybe a couple times a year. Well, usually after about that point, the next time they see me, they have had very vivid dreams. All of a sudden, part of their unconsciousness is unlocked just by asking the question, how are your dreams? Their conscious mind calculates that the dream is an experience that you have when you're asleep. And then all that trickles down, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, they're having very vivid dreams. Very interesting stuff. So again, why does all this even matter? What is the impact that it has on your life? I mean, you already have an easy enough time identifying what stressors you've got going on. But here's the thing. The dreams really cut through all the BS. They don't let you get away with the rationalizations that you make. It's like, well, I know I could improve this, but yada, yada, yada. You talk yourself out of it. Dreams don't let you get away with that. They're very powerful, and they do a great job of reflecting where your conscious state of being is. And they do a great job, too, of bringing up things that need to be addressed so that you can feel more secure, more stable, more capable, more confident, and all of those other things. You spend so much of your life asleep, and you have these incredible experiences that are not, you can't produce them on your own. Even with the best imagination you have, you just can't create something like a dream. People have been trying to reproduce dream scenes and sequences and movies and plays throughout all of history, and they fail miserably. And I've seen dozens and dozens of attempts, and some of them, you get the feel of it at least, but it's distinctly not dreamlike. Why is that? Because when you're in the dream, it all makes sense. It all feels as real as your lived experience right here, right now, in the conscious waking hours of your life. So when it feels real, it doesn't matter how ridiculous it seems afterwards. In that time, it felt completely rational, completely logical, and totally coherent. It'd be like, I'm sure most of you, I know I've had dreams where I'll go through an entire day and it feels totally normal. I go through my work shift. I come home. I make dinner for myself. I eat. I go to bed. And then as soon as I go to bed, I wake up in my conscious life. And I'm like, oh my God, I just went through an entire day in my dream. That's another reason why I don't think the subconscious knows that the external world exists. I don't think it knows that it's real. I think the subconscious is only, I can't even say occupied, because we occupy ourselves with consciousness, with focus. That's how we stay occupied. It simply exists. It exists in its own infinite space, in its own infinite time. I don't really know at this point how to say it other than that. And so we fill that infiniteness with our sensory data. But it's the emotions that come out of the subconscious. It's the emotions that require the subconscious to cherry pick moments of our sense data and then reconstruct them into this kind of semi-narrative form, because we are at our core emotional beings. We are not rational beings. Not at all. The most rational people in the planet, at their core, are emotional beings. There's no escaping it. Our emotional brains are so much older than our prefrontal cortex, which is our logic, rational thinking mind. So the domain of the subconscious is also the domain of the emotions. They go hand in hand, and our emotions have, I would qualify as, a near infinite depth. And we see that play out in these incredible images while we're asleep. So anyway, I've gotten off track here because I started that with a, what's the purpose of understanding the subconscious? So part of that is realizing the depths of our own emotional experience as human beings. If you can untangle the dream, if you can unpack the symbols there and get to the emotional core, the emotional depth, well, now you are opening yourself up to an entire new consciousness of what it means to be a human being, a new level of creativity and creative energy and vitality. A lot of people go through the day and they're fatigued. They're burnt out, they're tired, they don't sleep well, they drink too much caffeine, they have a long, hard day of work, and they reward themselves with eating junk food and soda and sugar, and then we repeat the same things the next day. But imagine if you were able to tap into and release some of that apparently boundless and infinite energy from the subconscious and integrate that into your daily life. How much more rich and vibrant and wonderful the world would be. And you can do that by paying attention to your dreams, by unlocking the secrets that are held within there, just by that simple procedure I talked about earlier. And I'll repeat it here because I think it matters. You take each component of the dream one at a time. I have this on a table where at each column head is a part of the dream, and then the rest of the column below is an area for you to list out what things come to mind. You don't have to think about it too hard. Just let things come to mind. And then circle the 1, 2, or 3 that really have the strongest impact. Now, at some level, that symbol is a representative of every single one of those things. And there's almost an infinite number of combinations of the things that come to mind for each of those components. That's why I think there's almost, there's no bedrock to the meaning that you can uncover. But starting with definitely the top 1, 2, or 3 that really seem to click, that really seem to snap into place. And then you reconstruct the dream from there. I want to take a minute too to talk about dream dictionaries, and don't do it. Just don't. Don't do it. I've read very, very many of them, and I've read them by a wide range of authors, some claiming to be mystics themselves or having some communion with God that allows them to define very distinctly what certain images mean. Stay away. Just stay away. You don't need one. You are your own dream dictionary, okay? Trust me on that. Save your money. Those things, they make fun gifts for kids to get them kind of interested in dreams and that kind of thing. And I think that's wonderful for that. But we are so complex. Again, our subconscious mind is 500,000 times stronger than our conscious mind. So you're going to tell me that a dream dictionary, you look up car, and there's a 2-sentence definition of what a car represents, and you're going to tell me that means the same thing in that limited amount for every single person, all 8 billion of us on planet Earth, and it means the same thing to everyone? I don't think so. Our unique experiences are enough to draw upon for us to identify and define the terms of our own dreams. That's the only way to do it. Now, again, going back to Carl Jung and these ideas of the archetypes, Carl Jung did believe that there is a universal subconscious. I'm blanking on the term that he used. Collective. God. Collective unconscious. I'm giving a talk on this at a high school in a couple weeks, and wow, okay, the collective unconscious. And basically what Jung's ideas were, he identified that no matter where he went in the world, the remotest villages are on the planet or the highest societies, and he was around at a time before the internet, and this is late 1800s. For him, up to the 1920s and 30s were kind of his explorations, and so this was a little while ago, 100 years ago, and so there was no Google searching, there was no Wikipedia, there were no dream dictionaries. But what he recognized was that though the specific images might vary, these archetypal patterns appeared all over the globe. So, if he was in Egypt, an ancient pharaoh having a dream of a chariot and the horse breaking free from the chariot and the chariot crashing. Well, we don't drive chariots with horses anymore, but we do drive vehicles, and tires do come off, and we do lose control. And so though the images themselves are different, the theme is the same. The archetype remains buried underneath the images. Archetype of transportation, for instance. So he kept seeing all these patterns pop up everywhere. And so he's like, okay, so there must be some commonality between all human experience. And maybe that was evolutionarily based, all humanity coming out of the same branch and intermingling and passing on genes. And so the stories that we cultivated, these images that we cultivated as a population early in our evolution have carried on throughout the generations and still with us today. So no matter where you go on the globe, there are these unconscious commonalities. So that's what he termed the collective unconscious. So there's a unifying aspect to our dreams, and there's a universality there that I think is really, really wonderful. Especially our current kind of political stage, where everyone is so divisive and everyone is constantly looking at the things that make us different. We need something to help us find the common ground again. Well, dreams is kind of one of those things. So, So now we've covered the archetypes. We've covered the collective unconscious. We covered how to break down dreams and pick them apart. We've kind of got a better understanding of our personal unconscious as something that is unaware of the external world that's out there. So there's one more thing. And I hesitate to even bring this up because it's kind of a rough sketch of an idea. And I'm thinking about it in terms of my clinical practice and working with clients. And the idea is this. What if we reviewed the events of our past as if they were dreams? What if we go back and we look at these important periods of our lives and we interpret them purely on a symbolic level, like we do with our dreams? So for instance, a fairly profound memory that I have is, let me think of one. Okay, so this is a two-part one. I used to play varsity soccer in high school, and we were ranked third or fourth in the state. And our first round of playoffs that year, I was a junior, and I scored the game-winning goal. Felt amazing. So if I was to think about that symbolically, if I'm scoring a goal, if I'm picking that apart, if I think about, okay, what do athletics mean to me? What does soccer mean to me? What does scoring a goal mean to me? Then I can kind of see this, I think of athletics as something hard, something that is a physical strain. It's a stress. The goal is and the game-winning goal, nonetheless, is the culmination. It's the expression of the validity of the hard work, the reward, the accomplishment, the notoriety that comes from dedication and effort. Well, fast forward to the second round of playoffs. Tie game, the whole game, hard fought, and one of the very last plays of the game, we have a corner kick. And there's a lot of chaos, and the ball bounces in front of me, and I'm, within 6 feet of the goal. And I kick it, right at the goalie. 2 minutes later, they score. 1 minute later, the game is over and we lose. So we go from this first round where I have the game-winning goal to the second round where now we lost the game because I couldn't kick the ball more accurately. So we have this symbolic rise of glory and validation and notoriety, followed by a great and terrible fall. The inability to stay focused and direct, the energy in the right way to get that goal. And instead it's blocked. So what I'm trying to accomplish, what I'm trying to achieve gets blocked. And because I felt so, in a sense, full of myself from that first game, the higher you rise, the harder you fall. This is that motif. Now, of course, this happened literally. But again, what I'm saying is, what if we break these things apart metaphorically? And what meaning does that really have? Because in my real life, these were literally, it's like, well, no one person loses a team sport. Okay? It wasn't on me to win the entire game by myself. And that's that. That's the end of it. We tried hard, we lost, and you move on, and, that's that. But metaphorically, I experienced the rise and fall, the hubris of the hero who had to meet his demise following a lifelong pursuit. Now, that's a lot more powerful. That's a hell of a lot more powerful. And there's a lot more to learn from that. There's a lot more to glean from that than just, it was a high school sport, won this game, lost that game. We are meaning-making creatures. That's what we do. That's why we tell stories. We live in a narrative function. There was a past to us, we have our present now, and there's a future us. That's how we live. One day we'll have an ending to that story. But all the while, what we constantly try to do is create meaning out of the things that happen. We tell ourselves stories every single day. So why should the past be any different? But instead of this literal narrative, why not look at the past as something like a metaphor? Why not revisit the past through a metaphorical lens and dissect it and figure out the symbols and what they mean to us now, as we are here and now, just like we do in dream analysis, just like breaking down each component and the symbolic representations it holds. Wouldn't that be a fantastic way to organize the past and help assimilate all those emotions, all of that difficulty, all of the tragedy, all of the trauma, and bring it now to the present moment where we feel like we really have grasped a great understanding of our past as we are the heroes of our lives. That's our responsibility. I don't know. I think that's going to be an idea I'm going to continue to expound upon in later episodes and in my own, my professional life and work. So yeah. Anyway, I know we went all over the map today. I hope you at least found some of the information interesting. If you have any questions, any comments, please drop them below. I would love to hear back from you. And let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to explore in later episodes. And we'll wrap up there. So thanks again.